Hello, everybody. Right, a bit of a funny change of scene here. It has been levelled at me before, and it's largely true that I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. And I never said I had, to be honest with you. Like I said, I was market trader 2.5 years ago. I'm learning as I go. I'm getting better, but I'm with someone who does know what they're doing. This guy over here is my mate Ben, and without him, I wouldn't be where I am. So. He was the guy, I used to go on about the fridge jobs. He was the guy that took me under his wing when he started. He took me over to one side, give me him and some other people as well, but him largely, give me lots of decent advice. And we've been chatting recently, and he said there's a few things that I think the van drivers could benefit from knowing. And I thought, well, rather than listening to me all the time, why don't we actually take it from someone who actually is a professional, who's got a proper decent company? And so we're going to go for a few bits. We're going to have a little chat. I've got a few points lined up. This is going to be different. Welcome to the interview. So, right, I'm going to go see that we've got to do the social distancing thing. We've done the hand sanitizer. So, Ben, you've got this sort of in there a little bit. We sort of just, there you go. Yeah. There's the man. I think he's.
Personally, I'm not quite sure about the professional and know what they're.
Oh, that's absolutely nonsense. It's fantastic. So, right, what are we going to go for? So, firstly, you're saying about price per mile. You say that some people have got unreasonable price per mile for the vans.
Yeah, I've always stayed away from the CX forums. Don't really get involved in them too much. But I've joined a few Facebook groups recently, and I can see there seems to be a lot of gripe about very cheap rates, very low rates per loaded mile, and also on the flip side, some probably unreasonable price per loaded mile rate. So it was really just have a chat about that, and from HBC Logistics point of view, this time of year, and I'm not teaching how to suck eggs here because is a quiet time of year. So there are people out there that are offering cheaper rates, and I see very regular on these Facebook groups that they're bidding this or they're bidding that, and how the hell am I not getting that from 200 mile for 100 quid or whatever it may be, as an example. Now, what I wanted to get across from our point of view, from HBC Logistics, and probably a lot of other companies I deal with, is that we don't just look at the price. We don't just look at the price, guys, honestly.
They pay good money. They always look after me.
We don't just look at the price. We do look at feedback, which is very important. We don't rule out people that have got a negative or a medium feedback, whatever it's known as on CX. We look at it overall. We do have very good technology that's integrated with CX Smart, which there's been a push. So that does help us with decision making. We know if Peter's done X amount of jobs for us before, because it'll say Pete's put a bid in, and by the way, he's done 100 jobs for us in the past. Ben puts a bid in. He's only done one in the past, but Ben's price is cheaper. Right? As an example, we would look at yours first because you've worked for us 99 times more than Ben has, as an example. So it was really just to try and educate on that, and certainly the price below the mile. Look, the reality is, I ain't going to BS. There is very cheap rates out there at the minute, but what I'm, as I say, just to repeat, is we don't just look at that. We also we have set rates. Typically our work is small van up to Luton. We know we're very expensive on the Luton, okay? We charge probably a lot more than most, if not the most, just under 2 quid a mile.
That's what you would charge the customer if you put one of your vans into them?
Yeah. Now we have 12 of our own Lutons, hence why we can charge that, because we have the control. We know there's competitors around here for a long distance that don't have the vehicles. So, and we like to think we give a very good service. So on the back of that, so if you do have a Luton vehicle, and we are looking for work, and in general, you should get a decent loaded mile rate with us.
I mean, what would you say you would pay on a Luton van at the moment per mile as a standard rate?
It really depends. If we're doing, as an example, our minimum charge only £50 for a Luton, where I know a lot of Luton owner drivers will charge that and more themselves. So we probably do lose out on the shorter distance, but we make that up on the longer distance work on the Luton. But if we use the general one as a small van and long wheelbase, excuse me, which I generally do see, is we charge £1.25 for a long wheelbase. So owner drivers out there that think they're going to get over £1 a mile, it's not reasonable. It's not reasonable. Now I do really appreciate. Look, I've got 15 of my own long wheelbases, and I know what the insurance cost is. I know what I have to pay to put someone in it. I do feel your pain, and I know at times you must think that things are a bit tight. But if you're getting good regular work, like we have about 20 dedicated owner drivers that work for us all day, every day, no return loads. They go to Liverpool, and that's it.
So they come all the way back empty.
They come back
empty.
They come back empty, and they're earning on average between £750 and certainly from August to December they're earning £1,100 a week easily. This time, I'll be honest, they're probably on anything from 600 up to 800, I would say.
That is still probably money's money at the end of the day, isn't it, really?
And we don't start if they want to go join CX, if they want to get a load from someone else, that's fine. And what we do in return for that is we self-bill them and give them 7 days terms. So that's our give back to them. Rather than them invoicing 30 days, all that stuff, we pay.
That was always very handy, yes. That's another thing. When I started, it was very handy to get paid within a week.
Yeah, so if you are in a 20-mile radius of Hertfordshire, get in touch. We're always looking for owner drivers. It's a very simple process. We just, the things that you would expect us to want, insurance, etc. Sign up with us, and we will self-bill you, and we pay you within 7 days.
I can genuinely
Anything you do this week will be paid next Friday, generally 8 o'clock in the morning, the bank pays, because we run the pay on Wednesday. And then to finish off on the small van, we charge again, which is more expensive than most. The long wheelbase is very similar to most. We charge around 95p for a small van. So again, you're looking on the reams of 70 odd pence, I would say.
I think that's quite generous. I always put a small van at 65 pence. I put a small van at 65p. Sometimes they go for 50, struggling up to a Luton about £1.10, and then fractional increases in between, sort of. I mean, I put a long wheelbase, used to be 90p, but I think they get about 75p a mile now. I think they're struggling.
We pay our dedicated owner drivers 90p a mile, and probably a bit more because we do it on a percentage, probably more like 92, 93. But in general, if we're seeing bids come in with good feedback, they've worked for us before, things like that. Look, there's times where there's a bid that comes in and you just can't turn it down. Again, I'm not going to BS people out there. Sometimes the price comes in and you think,
I've had it before. I've had shippers ring me and they've gone, "Why are you so cheap?" My favourite one, and it never happens. I got sort of Milton Keynes up to Manchester, and then I waited for about half an hour, and the guy phoned me up. He's a lovely fella, and he said it was about 10 miles away from where I was, going to Dunstable. And I rung him up and I said, "This is your lucky day." I said, "Mate, you can have it cheap." He said, and he got his calculator out, he's doing this. And I said, "You're not listening to me. You can have it cheap." And he turned around and he says, "Yeah, but we've all got to make a living." Yeah. And I had 150 quid in my head for coming back from Manchester in a Luton van. He said, 175. I said, "For 175 you get the gold service." I said, "No, you always get the gold service, but 175 you get the platinum." So I think it's good to talk to shippers as well. I think if you, like I say, if you rang me and say, "Why is your price so cheap?" and I'd turn around to you and say, "It's taking me home," then you've got confidence. If you ring me and say, "Why is your price so cheap?" and I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, it's going to make you sceptical about whether you want to put that van or not.
Yeah, agree. And look, we take lots of phone calls. CX, you can put your bid online. We do ask people to put the bid online, but also it does no harm. I may be shooting myself in the foot with this, but it is good to talk to people sometimes.
I always, even when it says e-quotes only,
we have, just so you guys are aware out there on CX, we have the phone number that is advertised as a dedicated phone line for CX drivers only. So we know when our phones light up and go mad, we know it's people from CX calling for a job. So please don't think we're being rude sometimes, but we have customers call, and if we can see it's a CX number calling,
you've got to prioritise the customer.
You've got to prioritise the customer, yeah. So that is all. Don't think we're being rude or ignoring you, or we don't have staff here. There's you can count. We've got a few furlough at the minute because it's a bit quiet, but yeah, in general there's.
In the new office.
In the new office, yeah.
It's fabulous.
So that's to finish. I'll finish up on the price per loaded mile. This is just my personal opinion. We really struggle with short wheelbase vehicles, standard transits. We generally probably charge the same as a long wheelbase, but we don't really have a tariff for, believe it or not, for a short wheelbase. So sometimes I know drivers of them vehicles get a bit that they're not quite sure why they're not getting work from us, and that's just us. It's no reason behind it. My advice would be, is go and get a long wheelbase van.
I would agree with you. I mean, like I said, the long wheelbase, it seems they struggle on the price they get per mile, but if you've got a short wheelbase and you go from Manchester to Portsmouth, and then you look on the exchange and there's like Portsmouth to Manchester, but it's 3 pallets, and you think, oh, I can't do it. Whereas if you've had the bigger van, it just opens up that option a little bit further for you.
Right. So yeah, that's the bit on price.
We said about that. There's a few other bits. Like, what do you reckon on the handball?
Now the handball charge, if I'm going to have any little whinge up in this video, Pete, it's this one, right? Again, I do like to think the guys here that do know us or don't know us, we are very reasonable people, and you kindly do vouch for that. There's one thing that grinds everyone's gears in this building, which is the handball charge. Now, this may be harsh or firm, or I'm not quite sure. I'm sure you'll leave comments and tell me, and people tell me. Is you're a courier driver. My guys that we employ, and you can't see that board there, but there's, as I say, there's 25 on there. Now, generally the long wheelbase work. If you get 2 or 3 pallets on your van, in my eyes, which is probably 78% of the time, that's the smooth, as I would call it.
Yeah, lovely.
Fork on, fork off, fork on, fork off. Yeah. There is going to be times where there is loose load. Now, you are courier drivers and you are paid to take a load from A to B, okay? Now, I'll contradict myself slightly. We are going to talk about waiting time a little bit. Now, again, our buffer is 20 minutes, 20-ish minutes to load and unload.
And then an hour on a lorry.
If you do have a van that's maybe full to the brim, which I'd like to think is very unusual. We do a lot of alcohol actually, where there's a lot of handball with that, as I think we do now. So if it does tip over that time, because it takes you 45 minutes to unload and maybe walk a couple of 100 yards to the shop or the restaurant, we would pay a waiting time. We wouldn't pay. There's no such thing as a handball charge. Now, I may get shot down for that. It's not existing in HBC. We're a fairly big organisation, out there in the country. So we're either doing something seriously wrong, or So my advice, guys, would be that we do put it on the notes as well. And again, general, but customers are customers, right? If you've got your own, you'll know, right? They'll go, it's a small van job, because they know we've got a lot more long wheelbases than small vans, and it's probably a pallet that's about 1.8 metres high. Customers are customers, right? And they don't always tell us. They don't always tell us that it's handball, and you guys have got to understand that we try and give a really good service to our customers, but they don't want a million questions. They don't want to know, what size the boxes, what's this, what's that. Generally they do tell us, but that's the reason. So please, the handball charge, it doesn't exist. I've spoken to other colleagues that I deal with across the country, Quickline Couriers, DB Couriers, Direct Courier Solutions. They're just the ones that use our technology, which you may get something we'll talk about. But yeah, there's no such thing in our eyes as handball charge. Now please go easy on the comments on that one.
It's not what you like, it's alright.
Yeah.
I'll just pass it on, I'll buffer for it.
Yeah, but if there is, as I say, like the alcohol, because that's bloody hard work, that's a ton of gear, 1,200 kilos, whatever it may be, right, whatever the van can take, 5, 6, 7 drops, you're looking at the coke.
Can you just take this to the cellar?
Yeah, well that's different as well, and that's where, talk to us, because they do. That it's just like our customer taking the biscuit sometimes. The receiver will take the biscuit. Now our customer tells us no cellar deliveries at all. And then when you get there, they go, do us a favour, can you stick that down there?
And it's very difficult to say no.
Again, talk, don't pick the phone up and say, you didn't tell me it was a cellar. We probably don't know.
This is what I say all the way along.
Build the relationships, because honestly, with full team in there is 8 people. It goes such a long way if you call up and just say, hey, I've got a bit of an issue here, they're asking me to put it in the cellar, is that right? Look, we're not perfect. The customer may have said put it in the cellar and we've missed it. We're human as well. Talk to us, and most companies out there, if you talk to them, they'll be good. And look, there is bad companies out there as well. There's no denying that.
But no, I think that is a good point. So I think you have to use a modicum of common sense. I think the whole thing about how long it's going to take you, and if it's like your waiting time is 20 minutes, and it takes 27 minutes or 30 minutes, don't ring them up and say, okay, well, you owe me for 10 minutes, think, well, you owe me an extra £2. It's just not worth the grief. You kind of have to, again, it's like the rough with the smooth. Some jobs are going to go smoothly, some jobs are not. If you turn up and the customer says, oh, by the way, these boxes have got to go up 5 flights of stairs and then down a corridor, ring in. And but you don't have to ring in screaming, just ring in and go, right, got a bit of a problem, can't sort it out, but there's going to be a cost involved, and then you work it out between you. So we're all human beings here, we're all in this together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can see waiting times on that point, so we'll move.
Yeah, so what would you say is reasonable?
So we allow 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off for anything up to a loop in general, right? But we do not turn the clock on, as you just said, by the minute. We just don't do it. It's ridiculous. And if anyone thinks that happens, you won't have any customers, to put it bluntly. So that's what we charge. Now, we are looking at our wait time charges because we feel certainly over the last 12 months that the owner drivers are charging, in some cases are too high, some cases higher than ours. So we are going to look at it, but just to give you a heads up, we charge £16 an hour and £20 an hour for the 16 for the long. We don't do it to make money. Now, maybe that's at our detriment because maybe, and I understand the owner drivers, that if they're there for an hour or two, they're missing out on jobs, so they need money to compensate for that. So it is a bit of a grey area. My advice would be, certainly with HBC and the customers that use our technology, is that we can very quickly see what your charges are if you put them in on your profile.
Yes, have it on the profile.
Put them in on your profile.
On the profile.
Because if you don't, I can tell you, my staff now, instructed by me by the way, if they're not on the profile, we will pay what we pay. We're willing to pay. Mm-hmm. If you come to me, Pete, and say mine's £20, yeah, and we may be only getting the 16, we'll say, look, and our guys do it, and hopefully you've heard them do it, and say, look, we only charge 16, are you okay? And if you're not, and you want to get into a battle, that's fine, my guys will be nice, but when you call up a day later for a job, they may just remember that, so is it really worth arguing about
for the sake of £4? Yeah, I mean, I've had that one before where I've turned around to a lady and I said I was on site for 2 hours, and of course with the truck you give like an hour free. Yeah. And it was a Friday night as well, and I wanted to go home, and I said and I had told them all the way along, the reason was because they had one full truck driver in the whole of Kirknagel, and he was on a trade break. But in the end, I rang her up and I said, look, okay, I've been here for 2 hours. First hour's free, second hour in the truck's £40. She said, well, we only pay 35. I went, I'm not going to kick you for a £5. It's fine. You've got to work together. It is give and take here. I do think personally, I mean, my waiting times I'd put at like 10, maybe £15 an hour on a small van, going up to 25 on a Luton, and then we put £40 an hour on a 7.5 and 50 on the 18 tonnes. Because the truth of the matter is, and we kind of mentioned this earlier, you don't want to be waiting. If you're on a truck and you're on a bay and you get, so your first job, you pick it up at 8, you get there at 11, half 11, you want to be done by 12 to get your second job, and they keep you waiting for 2 hours, so you'd rather be done by 12, you're done by 2, you get the first hour free, you've got £40 for 2 hours work, that's £20 an hour. You'd rather
with that, if you don't mind me saying, we had a little chat obviously before you come in, is that I know there's plenty of companies out there. Our technology tells us what your profile says, which is great, but there's plenty of companies I talk to out there that do look at the profile first before giving out jobs. So again, this is just advice. I've already told you 50 is excessive, and that's going from a large company around here that run Arctics at £35 per hour wait time. They do tell me that when they check the profiling, if they are excessive, they won't dish out.
Yeah, so you could be losing jobs.
So just be careful. You think you might be a bit smart by saying, well, I'm going to get my £50 an hour, which is fine. That's fine. I'm just telling you what. This is the whole point of this chat, wasn't it?
Absolutely,
I wanted to get across our side.
Well, I'm hoping out there watching the videos are van drivers, truck drivers, fellow shippers, and I'm hoping that across the board we're going to get a whole load of comments that, I agree with Pete, I agree with Ben, I think you're somewhere in the middle, I think you're both talking nonsense, but this
It will probably be the latter, because, but the reason I asked you in wasn't it, because I really, I've seen a lot of negativity on these Facebook groups, and we generally do care about owner drivers, and whether people think that's BS or not, without owner drivers, I ain't got a business, period. So it's true, or I would, but it would be a very expensive one, because them vans I've got, I keep pointing at that, but you can't see it. they're expensive.
Don't be not spoiled.
Yeah, they're expensive. But to finish on the wait time, you don't press the arrive at pickup, you don't press the arrive at delivery. Again, you're going to leave yourself wide open. Again, my system and 12 others that use it across the country, it tells them. And if you're not there and you're saying you're there at 12 o'clock and you've not pressed it, you're going to leave yourself open. So please try and
make sure when you're on site,
button.
click on site. Otherwise, if you turn around and say, I've been here for 20 minutes, they look at that, they don't know that. You could have just arrived and said you've been there for 20 minutes, so you need that thing. Right, other things you say, what certain other things now from a shipper's point of view, I did this video before, but I've actually got a shipper in front of me now, things that drivers do that annoy shippers. So you mentioned something about dead miles earlier.
Yeah, we asked the guys out there before we started talking, and one thing was mentioned, which was dead miles. Now, I personally haven't seen that a lot, because them guys day to day are talking to the drivers. But this may be for new drivers more so. Ultimately, when you're pricing a job, as the courier company, we're pricing it from SG6, SG7, where we are now, to L1 in Liverpool. Okay, we're not going to certainly bill a job from LU1 or LU7 where you live, or that kind of way, because you've got to drive over here. Again, I really appreciate and understand you've got dead miles, but again, think this side of the fence, that I've told you some of our pricing where we're charging from A to B. Again, you just got to swallow your dead miles.
I guess the argument is, if you really want that job, you'll do it. If the job, I think, is going distance, if for example it's Luton to Liverpool, I would drive an hour to pick it up. If the job is going from Luton to Milton Keynes, I wouldn't drive an hour to pick it up. I'd try and find another job, because I know that I'm not going to get that much money on that job, and it's going to take me that much longer, and it's kind of pointless unless I was kind of desperate.
So dead miles, always price it from A to B. And the other thing with that, our block list is extremely low. It's probably only competitors and 2 or 3 maybe. I've unblocked some recently because they came back and talked to me. One's pretty local to us, and I thought it was reasonable to bring them back on. But as I say, I've lost my train of thought. What I was going to say about that's it. Do not lie about where you are and when you're going to get to the pickup. please, because if you're an hour away and you say 45 minutes away or 30 minutes away, you're just leaving yourselves open. You're better off saying, look, I am 45 minutes away. I'll get it as quick as I can, and I know it's frustrating because you really want the job or whatever else, but I'm telling you, the 8 guys in there, if you say an hour, and if you say half an hour and you're an hour, all they're going to do, again, we don't ultimately block a lot of people, but there's things that we can do our end that just goes, that's got a red mark against it. So just be honest, and as I say, I know you're probably desperate for that particular job, that's why you're under. We all do it, I say.
You might put 5 or 10 minutes on.
Yeah, 5 or 10 minutes on, but the key to it, and again, what we massively look at is the app. We pay for every single CX app. Every vehicle that we have, we've got a CX app, and we try and expect the same. And that's another factor when we take in, are they tracked? It tells us. So if you are, leave it on, because again, we can see where you are. And if you say half an hour and we see 40 minutes, we'll have a little joke with you and say, you're about 40 minutes really. But the fact that we can see that, because you've got your app and you've got your tracker on, it's worth £10 to buy the app. If you need additional apps, it's very much worth it, in my opinion. And speak to CX about that. We'll have a bit of a joke. So yeah, don't lie about your pickup times.
I think also a nice touch. I mean, I'm always honest, and sometimes I do say that I'm going to be a little bit far away. Is it too far? They'll say yes or no. Another nice touch is rather than wait for someone to send the job through, say, right, what's the postcode? I'll head off now. Because they might not be able to send the job through for 10 minutes, in which case you're going to be at pick up 10 minutes later.
That's a good bit of advice.
When the postcode comes in, bang it straight in and go, right, read it down, say, are we going to Woolworth Road? Yeah, I'm going to be there in 57 minutes. Or Waze says 57 minutes. And then they know you're on the money. Because then no one makes this stuff up. And I just think it's better to be honest, because you're just going to bring it on yourself. And while on the subject of bringing things on yourself, co-loading.
Yes, co-loading now. You may be surprised with what I'm going to say about this. Is I think, and I know I talk to CX fairly regularly. I've got good relationships with some of the guys there, and for me it's a positive. We should look at co-loading more, because I would like to think, again, if I put my owner driver hat on, that it can help you guys, because obviously you can hopefully get a few more loads. And you know, if we use a very simple analogy of the small van rate, what did you say?
Ideally you'd want 65p a mile.
You want 65p, let's just, because my maths is not great, let's say 60p a mile. Then you can be a bit more competitive. Then if you want to co-load, you know, you get your 60p, then talk to the company and say, look, I've got a couple of boxes on. And I used the example, didn't I? If we've got a job going to Birmingham and you've got a job going to Liverpool, say Ben or HBC, I've got a job on, I'm going to Liverpool. And the reason we ask that is because our customer sees Pete turn up in this small van with a couple of boxes on the back, and some of them are a bit funny, and they'll go, what's that? Are you going somewhere else? Where we go? I've paid for the dedicated. Not that we charge differently for the dedicated, but I want my goods going. Don't worry, that's a job after yours, I'm going straight to yours. Again, talk to us, talk to the other courier companies out there, because maybe then you can go really aggressive on that second job. It might be an envelope, it might be whatever, it might be one pallet if it's a long wheelbase, and go in at your 40p or your 50p, because then all of a sudden you get a pound a mile.
Yeah, I mean,
so and we do that a lot with our owner drivers. The ones that work for us dedicated, the small van drivers, we always try and give them 2 if we can, so they're getting 140 a mile. So they're getting 70p and the 70p for 2 jobs.
It does make more sense. We don't run the vans anymore. I've kind of tied the vans. It didn't quite work out for us. But I remember when we did back in the day, there was one guy, and he was in London. I think he got London to Leeds, and then he got Leeds to London, and then he got Leeds to London, but dropping off the next day, and it was 5 minutes away from where he was. So we kind of went, well, that's okay. And as a result of which, I think he got like 400 quid for like a day's work and the next morning. And I turned around to him and I said, mate, you're earning more than I am.
Yeah.
But if you can get the colo, if you can get it right.
As I say, we keep saying the same thing, Pete, is talk to us. I keep saying us, but I mean that in a general term as courier companies. Talk to us, because a lot of the time we manage that. We can say, yeah, well, that's okay, and I would actively encourage co-loading. I think it's better for the owner drivers because they can get hopefully more per loaded mile. Look, there's loads of benefits to it, but as I say, just be transparent, because again, the people that use the trackers, all right, the app, sorry, there's a nice button on there that says replay, and we can see that, and we can see when you come off and you stop and you do this and you do that. Again, we don't use it that often, but there is people out there that use it a lot. You just shoot yourself in the foot. So from my experience, the guys that call me and say, just to let you know, I've got an envelope on my front seat, I've got to go here, I'm doing this, I've got 2 pallets on going there. As long as we know, and they'll say, no, this one's a bit of a screamer, or yeah, no problem, yeah, you can do that, and yeah, it's fine. So same answer, talk to us.
So that comes down to kind of like a backload type thing, isn't it? So it's not so much.
Well, I've wrote backload down there.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to work out. This is our version of a backload. Because we say if it's time sensitive, and a lot of stuff is time sensitive, it's a bit like, they need it there now. And then there's the ones where, you get there and you get there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you think, right, here it is, lads. And they go, yeah, sling it in the corner, we won't be using it for 2 days.
Yeah.
And you think, well, that is kind of my definition of, well, what would you say is the difference between a hot shot and a backload?
Well, the hot shot and backload, again, typically all of our work is what you would class as a hot shot. We don't use that terminology. But again, a lot of the time, just through relationships with our customers, or they will tell us, we've got a job, just to let you know, you've got till 1 o'clock to pick it up. This may be 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. You can pick it up any time between 1 o'clock, as long as it's there by 5 o'clock. Okay? To me, we wouldn't post that. I can't remember the last time we posted a backload. Again, I may shoot myself in the foot, because we have to manually change buttons in our system to do that, and it's a lot easier just to post it. But our definition is that if we put a job on between, say, 8 and 1 and deliver ASAP, I would just about class that as a backload if people wanted to. That's not me personally, but I could see, because there's flexibility in that. And this is one thing, again, I know a lot of people out there were aware of a group of owner drivers and courier companies that were talking to CX a lot. I was one of them, and it was a very good group. It was very, and CX will agree with me on this one. It was tough at times because there was a lot of spinning plates, a lot of things trying to get done. But one thing that was brought up was that a lot, and we were very instrumental in bringing down that 90-day to 60-day. That was the first thing that we all went into, just get rid of it. It took a while, but CX did it. You know, fair play. Doesn't benefit me because I pay 30 days in general. But yeah, the other thing the guys there at CX are looking at as well is again, conversations I've had is the ways that we can just, as an example, if you hit backload, take away the ASAP. And I know CX whether they are looking at that, I don't know. But we've had that discussion, and they are definitely aware and looking at trying to make that backload a bit more realistic, rather than just pick up at 8 o'clock, deliver ASAP, and by the way, I want a backload for it. So
yeah, backloading a lot of people's book just means I want it cheap. But bearing in mind, a lot of the CX rates are relatively cheap anyway in comparison to what you would charge your own customers. If you can get rid of, I always thought the thing was you get your own customers, and if in a Luton van maybe you could charge them, I don't know, £1.25, £2 a mile, something like that, and then the backload price would be the £1 a mile, which is what we quote coming back. So other than that, I think we're about done, haven't we? There's something about invoicing.
Our invoice process, I just wanted to touch on it just from a personal point with HBC. As I say, we resell our software out to a couple of other companies, which we're going to push quite a bit this year. It's fully integrated with CX, which makes it really good for both. CX like it because it's very seamless. It makes it really good for us because we press one button, it posts it out. But our invoice process from a HBC and in general most smart customers, as I say, I've named a few Quickline Couriers up north, BB Couriers, Direct Courier Solutions, Courier Group. There's a few other, I can't remember.
So what's this space?
But yeah, so when you do a job with HBC and these companies, if I talk about HBC, is don't just ping your invoice off, read the profile again, like I've said. Our system will send you an email once you've completed the job, and it's very straightforward. You click on a link and it'll already have the load ID, it'll already have the price in there that we've agreed. All you've got to do is put your date in, put the rest of your invoice number in, drop the PDF, put your bank details in. I guarantee you will get paid earlier than 30 days.
He is
100%. Now it's only a couple of days because your due date is driven by me putting 30 days in CX. But because we do a payment run once a week, so if your invoice is due on whatever day next week, we'll run the payment run this week, so it will come in earlier. Now, always pay attention to the next page because it will say sometimes that you do have to send in original paperwork. We're really trying to get away from that here. Sometimes we just can't. But if you don't get the message on our page that says, if it says, thank you very much for your work, we've got your invoice, you don't need to post your invoice, you don't need to send us any paperwork, so you don't need to, I don't know what the split is, it's probably about 80-20. 80 don't need paperwork, 20 do.
It was something I always used to love. I know I do the fridges and I didn't have to send the paperwork in, and the money appeared in the bank the following week, and when I got started it was an absolute godsend.
Yeah.
You know.
So, but again, I know there has been, look, technology is technology, and we know sometimes the emails may not get sent, so I'm told. It tells me it has, but look, it's the wacky world of the cloud and the internet.
No one understands the cloud.
Our phone number's on there, our email address is on there. Just pick up the phone and say, hey, I've not noticed an invoice come through, or I've not seen a payment. Talk to us. We'll send you the link again. Stay on the phone. You got it? Great. Just put that in, and we'll do it straight away for you. And a couple of days later, it will go through. Now, I know there's a bit of a gripe with different courier companies having different invoicing processes. I've had a few polite ding dongs about it. Let's say, but we do on average 200 jobs a day. Split of that is about 50-50 at CX at the minute, with owner driver stroke CX. That's 100 invoices a day. It's a lot to go through. It's a lot of paperwork, invoices, you know. And look, Royal Mail or Royal Mail, sometimes they generally don't come, and it's expensive nowadays. Stamps are going up. There's a lot of CX members that want to do a special delivery to make sure we get it because it's worth money. Is that, you know, that's the reason why we do it, because for us it takes, otherwise it's another 2 people doing work. And again, a lot of you, maybe hopefully not many of you, will go, well, you've got a courier company, you have to pay for them people. We're a business, we have to make sure we streamline things to stay competitive.
Well, the problem is, then if you have to pay for more people to do the paperwork, then that comes off the bottom line of how much you can pay drivers to deliver their stuff.
Correct.
This is the 21st century.
Correct. And again, that was factored in when we made this decision to build, and you know, we built this technology ourselves. Someone else doesn't own it, we own it, we built it ourselves. So, but again, people that do use it or are aware of it, give Peter a call, you know, leave some comments at the bottom. I'm open for suggestions. We are making some big changes to Smart over the next couple of months, which we may or may not have another bit. Well, we probably will, because it'd be.
We'll probably have another chat. Absolutely.
But in general, we really appreciate owner drivers. We really, really do. We understand that you have to make a living. Hopefully, some of them tips that I've given you are helpful. Hopefully, you see some side of it from our side, that you know, you don't have to agree with it all, but it's just the reality. Okay. But yeah, and I'm glad you're doing really well, because as Pete said, he talked about the fridges, the flowers, Brexit.
Oh, the flowers.
Brexit.
Oh, what's happened to the flowers?
Brexit has done the flowers for us.
Oh no.
No flowers. You know, Pete used to do flowers, Valentine's, Mother's Day, and Christmas. They've. Remember the first time we did them, Pete? When I first.
Oh, remember, yeah.
When the water went.
Oh God, and we was outside in the dark, and we did all boxes everywhere trying to find barcodes with torches.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
3 in the morning. I even came in.
Oh no, shocking.
Yeah, but no, they're but Brexit's done that as well. So yeah, if I can do one more pitch, owner drivers within a good radius of Letchworth, stroke Baldock. That's where our 2 units are. Our main one now is in Baldock, just across the A1 from Letchworth. If you've got a nice, clean, tidy van, you're a proper owner driver, not an owner driver that has 10 people working under you. We will talk to you, but I'm more interested in owner drivers. Come and talk to us, bring your insurance documents, give us a call, we'll send you a little email with the link.
Number out.
Number, look, it's on CX, you'll see it, the details.
HBC Logistics.
HBC
and honestly, I wouldn't be where I am without this guy. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I think there is a bit on the website about contacting drivers, maybe, let's have a look. Look, it says get in touch, put in there, reference video with Pete and Ben. I'm an owner driver in this area, can you talk to me? We will give you a
You could do a lot worse.
We are a bit quiet as most, but hopefully if we can give you 1 or 2 jobs a week and someone else gives you 1 or 2 jobs, it's an extra couple of jobs you haven't got. Yeah.
Cool. Right, well, I think we're done then. So I'm going to say we do thank you very much, and guys, I hope it was helpful. Like I say, it's someone who's actually. How long have you been doing this now?
We started July 17.
Yeah, but how long have you actually been doing this?
I've only been in this game since then. I worked for UPS. I was quite high up at UPS.
But
parcels, but same day.
Same kind of thing, though, isn't it? Really,
yeah,
like, you know.
Been in transport
Forever.
12 years, yeah.
So
business partners had a company called Letchworth Couriers, which some people may or may not know, and City Sprint took that off.
So there you go. Free customers to them. So I hope it's helpful. Yeah, a bit different. And like I say, any comments on anything we talked about, please stick them in the comments, and they will get addressed on the Sunday Q&A. Hopefully together, shippers, drivers working together. I love it if everybody works together. It's my favourite game. And in the meantime, take care, take money.